You can't lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. Or can you? If your training journey started in the bodybuilding realm like mine did when I was a teen, you've likely heard at one point or another that if you want to build muscle, you need to do a bulk phase and pack down as many calories as possible. And if you want to shed body fat, then you have to do an intense cut phase with a large calorie deficit to lean back up. But the research says otherwise. So if you're looking to shed body fat and build muscle at the same time, the good news is it's possible, with the right combination of nutrition and training, that is. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how to do it step by step. But first, we need to discuss where you're at on your training journey. Before embarking on this journey of losing body fat while building lean muscle, it's really important to know what your main goal is. Do you want to lean more towards increasing muscle mass, or would you prefer to put the emphasis on shedding a few pounds via body fat? And the reason I ask is this is going to determine whether to put your calorie intake slightly above or slightly below maintenance calories, which is the number of calories you would consume to maintain your current weight, and our starting point for determining your ideal calories for optimal body recomposition. By the way, if you're not sure how to calculate your maintenance calories, caloriecalculator.net is a great free resource where you can input your age, height, weight, and activity level, and it will provide you with a solid estimate of your maintenance calories. And I'll be sure to leave a link in the description below this video for you so you can easily get started. Now, you might be wondering, how far above or below my maintenance calories should I go? And for those of you wondering, here's the breakdown. If you want to prioritize shedding body fat, like the vast majority of the busy professionals I work with, you'd want your calories to be roughly 10% below maintenance. If you want to build muscle, though, the average person will want to start with calories 5 to 10% above maintenance. Keep in mind that this does vary a lot, though, based on how lean you are. So if you're already lean, you might need to go up between 15 and 25% above maintenance calories to pack on the lean muscle. However, that 25% number is mostly for those who have super optimized training and nutrition, who have nearly reached their genetic potential. So if that's not you, stick to the lower ranges. There's plenty of evidence that shows a person's starting body fat percentage, as well as their training status, beginner or advanced for example, impacts the quantifiable changes in body fat and muscle mass when in a recomposition phase of nutrition. In other words, those who are starting with a larger amount of body fat to begin with are going to see greater changes in their ratios of body fat relative to fat mass. And this makes sense because body fat is just stored energy. So even if you're in a slight calorie deficit, if you have more body fat, you still have energy stores to pull from to help fuel your workouts and build lean muscle through your training. Whereas those with lower starting body fat percentages are less likely to see the same degree of body fat loss. However, this doesn't mean that you can't simultaneously build lean muscle and shed body fat at the same time if you're lean to start. It just means that it's going to be a slower process. And this is also why it's important to make sure you understand how to dial in your protein intake, as research suggests that high protein intake is advantageous for body recomposition. And if you're not sure how to calculate your protein intake, I have a full video dedicated to this subject based on your goals you can check out in the description below that covers this in detail. But for the sake of this video, here's the quick and dirty version. For fat loss, research suggests consuming 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. And for muscle gain, research suggests 1.4 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. And if you're wondering why the ranges, a simple way to look at this is those with higher body fat percentages typically fall into the lower end of the protein range, and those with lower body fat percentages typically consume protein at the higher end of these ranges. By the way, if you're curious to know what a low body fat percentage is, I have provided a link to these charts from the American College of Sports Medicine that breaks down body fat percentages for both men and women by age range. And you'll want to pay attention to the excellent range to know what is lean for our purposes in this video. Now, with protein and body fat percentages addressed, what about the rest of your macros? You know how to calculate your protein now, so what should your carb and fat intake look like? Since our goal is both to lose fat and gain muscle, meaning we want to avoid a large caloric surplus, I'd like to take the low end of the daily recommended amount of fat from the American College of Sports Medicine, since fat has over twice the calories per gram than carbs or protein. And the low end of the recommendation, by the way, is that at least 20% of your daily intake comes from fat, which we can use for our fat intake numbers. Since we know fats are 9 calories a gram and protein and carbs are 4 calories per gram, you can easily solve for your carb intake with a simple math problem because you know your protein and fat intake. And just like that, you have your macros to build muscle and shed body fat. But unfortunately, this alone isn't enough to build muscle and lose fat at the same time. Even if you have the perfectly balanced macronutrients for your goals and your calorie quantities dialed, you simply can't build lean muscle without some form of strength training, at least 3 days per week. I work with busy professionals who are crunched on time, so me and those I work with tend to do our strength training with 3 full body kettlebell workouts per week to save time on commuting to the gym. But you can use any strength tool that is heavy enough to challenge you. But there is one massively overlooked factor when it comes to building lean muscle mass and shedding body fat that can make or break your results, and it has nothing to do with your nutrition or your training. If you really want to build muscle and lose fat at the same time, you're going to have to stop the late night scrolling, because it turns out sleep plays a massive role in the preservation of lean muscle mass when losing body fat, as demonstrated in this study here, where one group was sleep restricted 1 hour per night for 5 days, while the other group was not. Both groups were given the same nutrition parameters for calorie deficit, and while the group that was not sleep restricted lost 16.9% of their total weight loss from lean muscle, the sleep restricted group lost a staggering 84.8% of their weight from lean muscle mass. Now, it's important to note these participants were not resistance training, and while strength training would likely mitigate the loss to some degree, it's not a magic bullet to replace high quality sleep and recovery. So as long as you determine what your primary training goal is, find your maintenance calories, calculate your protein intake and macros with the guidelines I provided, strength train at least 3 times per week, and get adequate sleep, you have yourself a formula for losing fat while building muscle. So what is your primary goal going to be with your recomposition? To lose body fat or build muscle? Let me know in the comments below. Just keep in mind, while these nutrition parameters are a great launching point for building fat and losing muscle, unfortunately, you're still going to need a solid way to build strength to accompany your nutrition to pull this off. So if you want to learn how to build lean muscle using kettlebells so you can crush your body composition goals, check out this video here, and I'll see you on the next one.